Mm. Good morning, everybody. I'm trying to go. Hold on. Just trying to get live here on TikTok as well. Hope everybody's doing okay. I'll tell you a little bit about how I'm doing this morning. Uh, if you know me, you know this isn't my normal voice or appearance. I've been sick all week. I've been fairly sick. Just starting to feel okay. Um, Good morning. Good morning to you. Yeah, this is my very first live this week. I've been sick. I've been sick all week. You can probably tell by my voice. I'm still drinking coffee, although it's weird. I didn't drink coffee. Thanks. I'm feeling much better. Or I wouldn't be doing this. I was very. I was feeling not. I don't want to say like I was very sick, like I was dying or something, but uh, I was not feeling up to going live. Let's put it that way. And I lost my voice for a couple days. I really wasn't able to speak. It put the kibosh on a lot of things, meetings and things like that that I had to be rescheduled because I couldn't be heard. So my voice is finally coming back. I've got a little bit of nasal stuff going on, but my fever's gone and I'm feeling a lot better this morning. So um, I'm just getting. It's taken me a little bit this morning. So here we go. Now I'm live on TikTok too. So hope everybody is doing well. Steaming up my glasses with my coffee. And so yeah, and I do have a little bit of a cautionary tale for folks. I did something really dumb the other day and oh, good morning, good morning. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I pretty quickly I heal pretty quickly. I recover pretty quickly from stuff. I very rarely get sick. Maybe maybe once or twice a year. Sometimes there have been years where I haven't been sick. I've been exposed to COVID so many times. My kids have had COVID like 3 or 4 times. I don't think I've ever had it. I may have had it at the very beginning of the pandemic before there was testing. I got sick for a while and couldn't get tested or anything because I didn't have any underlying health conditions. But I'm a pretty healthy guy normally, and I try to take care of myself. So, uh, but once in a while, my daughter and I both got sick, and the only sort of common stuff, I took her to her doctor's office, and so I think we probably picked something up there, which happens. It happens. It's okay, but I'm fairly recovered today. I just have a little bit of sinus pressure and doing all right. But oh, so cautionary tale. I did something really dumb, and so I'll share that because I'm not ashamed or embarrassed by doing something dumb, and hopefully people can learn from my mistake. Um, oh, Edgar Casey research. Interesting. I don't know. I only know a very little bit about Edgar Casey. He was a pretty amazing individual. He worked as far as I know, they called him the sleeping prophet because he would go into a trance, I guess. Wasn't really sleeping, I don't think, and they would put like patient files underneath his pillow or something, and he would come out and like give treatments of all kinds and stuff like that, and uh predicted a lot of things, predicted a lot of really amazing things. I really think he was absolutely tuned in, and everything I've read about him is pretty amazing. Maybe I should read more about him. So anyway, my story of being dumb, and hopefully people can learn from this. I take prescription medication every evening before bedtime, and as I said, I've been sick, and I was like, I really want to get a good night's sleep. So I will take some over-the-counter cold medication that will also help me sleep. Um, so I took that, and I was in the middle of taking my normal medication, and I had the thought, um, oh, maybe I should have checked drug interactions before I took those things together. And so I quickly turned to Dr. Google and did drug interaction, da 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 da, da, and came up. I don't know if it was, here's Phoebe, the cat. Hello, Phoebe. Quickly did research on drug interactions. And indeed, there was a very severe, in fact, life-threatening drug interaction between what I had taken. So did not finish. I only took about half the dose of my normal stuff. And then I had to stay up and monitor how I was doing, which was unpleasant. And it made me feel really bad. And I noticed it affected my breathing, which is the issue there. I did not wind up, I'm fine, obviously. I did not wind up having to go to the hospital or anything. I was worried. I was ready to have to call 911 or whatever. Oh, interesting. Edgar Casey. Yeah. Interesting stuff. Yeah. Edgar Casey. There's still, I think, an institute, right? Is it the CARE Institute, Casey Research Institute or something like that, that publishes his stuff, that has all of his, he did hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of readings, a lot of health stuff, but also stuff about Atlantis. And he said that Atlantis was going to be found at a certain time off of Bimini. And when he said it was going to happen, there were some underwater structures revealed off of Bimini that are interesting, that, as far as I know, there hasn't been a lot of research on, but some definitely some interesting stuff there. Definitely interesting stuff. Hopefully the cat will settle down a little bit. Plus I'm already sneezing and I'm a little bit allergic to the cat, so she's always so helpful. The kitty is always so helpful. Oh, good night to you as well. I know you're in Indonesia, so it's morning here. It's a little after 8:13 in the morning here. So this morning anyway, I'm going to talk about reality. Light topic for today. But there's a number of things that have occurred to me or going on or whatever that brings me back to talking about this. And the aspect of reality, I'm going to use that term in quotes, that I want to talk about, and I think it's important, and we don't think about it enough, and it causes a lot of problems. Our idea of an objective reality, an objective truth, a one truth that applies to everybody, and the idea that there is one way of interpreting anything, that there's that, and that my experience of something is your experience of something. That's not real. That's fake. It cannot happen. And the author Robert Anton Wilson wrote some very interesting stuff, but he was very much about, he came up with the phrase reality tunnels. We're all living in a reality tunnel. We're all living in our own reality. And I'll explain that. I'll talk about that a little bit. You and I do not live in the same reality. You don't live in the same reality with anybody else. I don't live in the same reality with anybody else. Everybody's reality is different. Is there overlap? Is there consensus? There's consensus. We can agree upon things. We can have a conversation. I can say, this is a cup of coffee. And you could say, yeah, that's a cup of coffee. Truth is, you don't know that if it's a cup of coffee or not. I do, because I'm drinking it. But even then, I don't know that. I made it. I made it out of what I thought were coffee beans. It's possible somebody created something synthetic and lied to me. And again, my idea of what is real is based on a lot of presumptions, So each one of us, everything we perceive, everything we understand, is shaped by our biology, by our completely unique biology. Is there overlap between human beings? Do we have similar biology? Yes. We do not have the same biology. This is interesting to me because I have daughters who are identical twins. Therefore, they're genetically identical. They were born 1 minute apart, 10:55 and 10:56 in the morning, and yet they are different. They have different perceptions of things. They have different likes. One of my daughters likes watermelon, the other one hates watermelon. Right? Genetically identical. But they're not. I mean, they're genetically identical technically, but they're not biologically identical. Their realities are not the same, even though they were raised in the same environment, same schooling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're different. The way they perceive things is different. We all have completely unique makeup. Now imagine people who aren't identical twins, who are raised in different cultures, who have different parentage, who have different biologies, right? I'm a 52-year-old man. I can't imagine what being a 7-year-old girl is like. I can imagine, maybe, but I don't know if I'm going to get close to that. How perceiving things. This is why really good actors are really good and make the big bucks, because they can put on a different persona in such a way that it's convincing to us. They can step into, good morning to you, my friend. Nice to see you. I'm still recovering a little bit, so my voice is a little off. Apologies. My voice gets deeper though when I get sick. I'm like, I should always do like my outgoing voicemail with my Barry White deep voice. Is this a case study talk? I'm not sure what that question means. Am I talking about a case study? I'm not. But I am talking about having identical twins, which is interesting. Like I have identical twin daughters. So their experience of the world is different, even though they're very similar, right? There's some overlap, there's some agreement, there's some consistency, but we don't know. I don't know what it's like to look through another person's eyes or to live in another person's body. You can't have that experience in a very real way, right? And so, we can look at something, we can look at the same thing and have a similar perception of it, but have a very different experience of it. So here's an example. Imagine that you come to my house, and in my house there's a photo of myself and my girls in my living room standing under a waterfall with my arms around them. Now you could look at that picture and go, oh, that's a really cool, that's an interesting picture. You're standing under a waterfall with your daughters. And I look at that picture and it brings up all like that was taken at a place called Villa Escudero in the Philippines. And I have all of these memories come up and all of these experiences. My subjective experience of looking at that photo is not your subjective experience of looking at that photo, right? That's a big, that's kind of a big example, because that you could say, well, that's something that you have memories of and sympathetic attachment to and emotions about. But what in our life is that not true for? Anything that we perceive, anything that we experience, is we experience through the filters of our conditioning. What's our conditioning? Conditioning is anything we've learned, anything that comes from our upbringing, anything that comes from our education, anything that comes from the culture we live in, anything that comes from the media we're exposed to, right? So everything we've learned, everything we've experienced in our life affects everything else we experience down the road. And since you and I do not have the same experiences, we have some experiences that may overlap. Oh, good morning to you. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. because we do not have exactly the same experiences, we don't experience anything in exactly the same way. And this is challenging because there are people fighting religious wars right now. There are people who are killing other people because they don't see things the same way, because we can't comprehend that. And because we are so challenged by people not seeing things our way. But that's the norm. That's how it works, right? This becomes problematic and it becomes very frustrating. How come this person can't see things from my perspective? How could they see things from your perspective? Now, you can come to consensus with people. Oh, nice to see you. Right. Human nature. So everybody has their own beliefs, their own values, their own experiences. All of these things flavor our reality. All of these things flavor how we take things in. And I've had a couple of interactions recently. So this, when things come up for me repeatedly, they'll often, become part of the topic that I'm going to talk about in one of these lives. So I've had a couple of things with, students or prospective students or, whatever, where they're talking about like, well, these people don't support what I do and they don't understand what I'm doing, and they look at me like I'm weird or I'm different or whatever. I'm like, okay, let them. You know, it, you know what you're talking about often is needing approval from others, right? This need of approval from others, and I get that. I understand that. It's nice to have approval from others. It's nice to have validation. You'll never get it from everybody. And you might not get it from most people, and you might not get it from many people. Sometimes you have to find your tribe. Sometimes you have to find the people that sit and hold space for you. But not a lot of people can do that. And expecting people to do that and basing your happiness on other people approving of you is really, really hard. Right? Western education, which tells me my brain is restricted to my cranium. And yeah, so there's a model that your mind is comprised of your nervous system. But I think consciousness research is definitely starting to depart from there, and that even biology is saying that a lot. For example, serotonin, our major neurotransmitter, most of it is produced in the gut, and they call the gut the second brain, right? And we talk about having a gut feeling and all of these things. So I think there is movement away from that, the idea that all of our experience is located in our central nervous system. Central nervous system is a very powerful thing, but it's not all there is. And it's important. It's an important part of our body structure, body mind. Well, your ability to accept is your ability to accept. You don't have to accept anything, or you can accept everything. Or a better idea is to understand that we don't really know anything. Like I said, I think, like, I can say I know I'm drinking a cup of coffee. How do I know that? I went to the store, I bought the beans, I ground the beans myself, I boiled the water, I made the coffee, and I'm drinking it, and it tastes like what I know as coffee. But what if it was something else? What if somebody somewhere invented synthetic coffee, or there was some other plant that they exchanged for the coffee bean? Or what if I'm hallucinating all of this? What if I'm a brain in a jar somewhere, right? That's the typical, the Matrix idea, but came out of philosophy. When you're this idea that I'm actually experiencing this world out here just as it is. We know that's not true. We know that scientifically, this is not what's occurring out here. This is all quantum soup out here. I'm having an experience of a 3D world out here, as I am assuming you are. I don't know that you are, right? And again, to invoke Robert Anton Wilson, he said, we know, I know. What a useless statement. I know. You don't know anything. You think, right? We don't know anything. We cannot ever know anything with 100% certainty. With that word, we feel like we do. We can convince ourselves. We believe that we know things with 100% certainty. But and it is extremely comforting to think that we know with 100% certainty things. Because why? Because uncertainty is unsafe. Oh my gosh, if my world isn't real, how do I even operate in it? So part of spiritual maturity is to become really comfortable with that idea, in my opinion. Again, I don't know anything. This is just all my opinion. Sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah, when your family doesn't approve, but you love them. And you can love people who don't approve of you. You don't, approval and love, let's put it this way. Approval and love are basically the same thing, right? If your family doesn't approve of you, then they are being unloving towards you. But that does not have to affect how you hold them, how you approve of them. Now, approving of somebody and approving of certain behavior or something like that is a different thing, right? Somebody can be hurtful towards me, and I can say, I'm setting a boundary. This is not okay for you to be hurtful towards me. I don't have to accept hurtful behavior, but I don't reject you as a person. I approve of you as a person. That's a challenging thing. I understand. We're not conditioned that way. The way that we're taught about love very often is transactional. I'll love you if you love me back. I'll love you if you give me $20. I'll love you if you whatever. I realize that was a weird statement. I love you if you give me $20. But again, it's very transactional. And I talk about love a lot. Like, that's not real. Spiritual love is not transactional. It's unconditional. And so I understand it's hard, but letting go of the emotional attachment to needing external approval and giving that to ourselves is a real step in the right direction for spiritual maturity and spiritual growth and spiritual freedom, to be honest. What if you didn't need approval from the family that you loved? What if you could love them still and not have their approval? Yes, people crave things lacking from childhood. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I know that very well. On a very personal basis, right? So very often we get into, particularly in interpersonal relationships, we get into these relationships to try to make up for or reproduce relationships we had from our childhood. It might seem weird, it might seem Freudian that we get into intimate relationships with people that remind us of aspects of our parents or whatever. It's not that weird, it's not unusual, it happens all the time. It doesn't mean you want to be intimate with your parents. That's not it. It just means there's an aspect of the relationship that you're working through. And part of developing psychologically and maturing spiritually is working through that aspect, working through that. And if you enter into a relationship with somebody who is even a relationship that's not great, I've been through a few of those in my time, um, you enter into a relationship, then that is not great for you. You can grow from it. You can learn from it. If you don't, you're going to repeat. You're going to go back into the same relationship over and over again. How many people enter into the same relationship with different people over and over again, right? You see people like dating the same person, even though it's a different human being, right? And I've said this before. If you want to experience more love, more acceptance in your life, more approval, become more loving, become more accepting, become more approving, and let go of attachment to what you get back from that. Is that hard? Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, don't be in a relationship that is just taking from you. Love and approve of yourself enough to set boundaries in your relationships, right? If somebody's just taking, and not giving back, that's not healthy. I run into this a lot. So, as a spiritual teacher, I do require people to pay me for my time and my expertise, and all of the many years and many tens of thousands of dollars I have spent on my education, right? And that sort of thing. And I ask people to, I have a fee for teaching, and people are like, oh, you shouldn't charge anything for teaching spiritual topics. I'm like, I don't know where this idea came from, right? I mean, I know there are certain people who say this, but that kind of relationship is not sustainable. And I've tried it. I've tried like giving people services for free or sliding scale or whatever, and it is instantaneously extremely unhealthy, right? You get the people who are drawn to that tend to be taking, and it's harmful to me, but it's also harmful to the other person. There's no exchange, right? And there's this whole like, oh, money is the root of all evil, and money, no, that's actually not the phrase. It's the love of money. It's greed that they're talking about in that passage in the Bible. And greed is, yeah, I can agree that greed is bad. I don't think I'm a greedy person. I'm a very sharing person. I do lots of these things. I do lots of lives to be you know to give away teaching for free as often as I can, and that sort of thing. This is how I do teaching for free. This is how I give services for free, is that I do them live on here, and that way I can talk to a large group of you all at one time, and you can comment, and there can be an exchange, right? And I learn things from you guys, and it's really good. But yes. So there's a great I'm gonna misremember the name of the woman. Stryckler. Oh gosh, I wish I had the book in front of me. There's a great book called. Unfortunately, it's out of print, but you can buy used copies, but they're in the range of like $35 for a paperback. But it's called Unconditional Love and Forgiveness, and it's an absolutely brilliant book. And I've used the teachings from this book, which come from this woman was a student of a particular psychoanalytic school, but she learned, like, she was studying like the Dead Sea Scrolls as well, and so she was looking at the code of conduct of the Essenes, which had a lot of stuff about forgiveness, unconditional love and forgiveness. So good morning, happy Friday to you. Yeah, I haven't I'm glad you made it. This is the first one of these I've done this week. I've been sick all week, in case you can't tell by my nasal congestion and a little bit of coughing still. I'm feeling way better today. I was pretty much laid up, so have some good. I'm having my coffee now, so cheers, and happy to see you when you're back. Nice. Glad that you were able to catch me for the time that you did, and hope to see you again. So I'm talking about reality and how every individualized consciousness, which is what we are, is how we're experiencing the world. This is my reality. We are experiencing the world through an individualized consciousness as a whole, of which there is one consciousness. You might call it God or divinity or source or Brahman, whatever name you want to apply is fine. Labels are limiting, but it's hard to talk about things without labels. So consciousness, there is one grand consciousness, and in that consciousness, all experiences arise. But we, as incarnated human beings, I'm going to just warm up my coffee with this is how much I love coffee. I have my own like restaurant style coffee carafe. I remember this from, I haven't been to IHOP in years, but I think they still do this. Like, you'd get the coffee and they put the carafe on the table so you could fill up your own coffee. And I always thought that was cool. And it probably saves the wait staff from having to run back and forth. Oh, thank you. I do appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. I am feeling a lot better today. So, and I do, when I get sick, I do my own healing work, and as well as taking medication and fluids and rest and staying warm. So talking about, lost track for a second there. My brain also doesn't work really well when I'm, yes, the double slit experience. The double slit experiment, I've talked about a lot on this. Right. So, yeah, and it's one of the things. So, some quantum physicists, I can't say quantum physicists say, because I can't speak for an entire, group of people. But I'll say Erwin Schrödinger, who came up with the Schrödinger's cat thought experiment, talking about like entanglement and superposition and that sort of thing. Yeah, so I am a science nerd as well as being a spiritual nerd. So I'm all kinds of nerd. Sometimes that throws people, but hey, it is what it is. Erwin Schrödinger, who came up with Schrödinger's cat thought experiment about quantum superposition, said that the number of consciousnesses in the universe is one. Right? He's not the only one. This, you can read, if you read mystically. What I mean by that is you have to look at spiritual texts not as having at least two layers. And you don't have to read spiritual texts. I'm not telling you have to go out and read the Bible or read the Vedas or read the Bhagavad Gita or whatever. But if you do, you have to read things on more than one level. And in fact, reading scripture as simply as just literal history is considered was considered for the longest time, for hundreds and hundreds of years, at least in the Western world, to be kind of the lowest form of reading. This is one understanding of this is the exoteric explanation of things, right? That you can. I'm not gonna talk completely about Christianity here, because this is an open conversation for everybody. But you can read. I'm going to use the Bible as an example. You can read the Bible and just say, "Oh, this is just a history book," if you want to read it that way. Some people do, and some people are like, "This is literal history." But even then, there's a lot of parable. Even if you believe that to be true, there's a lot of parable in there, right? Why? And the disciples asked Jesus, "Why do you teach through parables?" And the answer is that some people are not able to understand the deeper teachings if you lay them plain for them. Some people aren't ready for that yet. And so we teach on multiple levels. We give people these nice sort of moral lessons, maybe, so they can live a good life. Don't kill people, don't judge people. That's like the number one teaching in, if you read the words of Christ in the Gospels, is like, don't judge other people, and be nice to your neighbors. Even, excuse me, especially when those neighbors are immigrants and foreign to your land. Plain as day. How often do we lose that, particularly in the US these days? So if you, and those are great. And so there's exoteric, outer circle teaching for anybody who wants to come along. There's stuff for everybody, right? But and something that many people don't understand is very early Christianity in particular, but other, there's a lot of cross influences, but very early Christianity, meaning like the church structure, not talking about like what went on with Jesus and that sort of thing, was influenced by things like Aristotle and Plato, right? Was influenced because the Gospels were written in Greek, and the Greeks were in charge of a lot of things. And so the very early church was influenced by a lot of through Greek thought and that sort of thing. And these ideas, so there were in Greek pagan society, there were these what they call mystery schools. There's some famous ones. There's one, the most famous one is probably the one at Eleusis, that lasted for thousands of years, and tens of, I don't know the exact numbers, I don't know if anybody does, tens of thousands of people went through these mystery schools every year. You went to this thing, you got initiated into these mysteries. They were putting on plays, they were drinking psychoactive brews, not coffee, and they were experiencing communion with their gods. Communion, right? This went on for well over 1,000 years at Eleusis alone, and there were many others. Eleusis kind of took over some of the mystery schools because they were so popular, and it was about death and rebirth, right? They were using the Persephone and that sort of Greek legend, and so I'm sorry, I'm just looking at something and making sure my dog's not eating something she's not supposed to eat. I'm going to step away for just a moment. I will be right back. I just have to make sure my dog's not going to choke on something. But I will be back in just a second. What do you have? Oh. Okay. Alrighty, I'm back. I'm sorry about that. Terribly sorry about that. It was actually a chew toy, and my dog chewed it and shredded it to pieces. It's true. Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I'm keeping an eye on her. I had to take her to the urgent care 2 weeks last week. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. And they had to do something wrong, and they had to there was nothing. They couldn't find anything. They had to x-ray her stomach and stuff. Very expensive trip to the vet. So Yeah, pups. You know, you know, you know. Yeah, they only teach the boring parts of history and science in schools today. Yeah, because th- to go really deep into any subject would require more time and more like the way schools work is they have to give you kind of an overview of things, right? And to go really deep into something, you have to kind of specialize a little bit. Um, and go at your own. I thought animals were supposed to be easier than kids. Sometimes they are. Having having twins until they're old enough to kind of take care of themselves is, let me tell you, something else. Talk about keeping people from choking on stuff and keeping people from my dog has never written on the floor with a Sharpie marker. Um, stuff like that. uh, my daughters are off. One of my daughters is going off to college in 2 weeks and the other in 3 weeks. So I am very soon to be an empty nester. Um, in 3 weeks, I'll be an empty nester. Yikes. Sorry. So anyway, so these mystery schools existed in throughout Greece, and I believe there were mystery schools in Egypt as well. Although it was interesting. So there were definitely priests and temples and that sort of thing, but religious life isn't sort of like it is in the Christian world. It was more integrated into daily life, and there were like very complex, particularly in pagan societies, because you had many different gods and many different locations and many different cults, and it was much more open and accepting, and there's a reason why a lot of a lot of wisdom, engineering, mathematics, all of these things came out of this world because there was such a free flow and exchange of ideas, and not just within single culture, within other cultures as well. And we have to thank the Arabic world because after I think there were multiple burnings of the library at Alexandria, lost a lot of knowledge that was lost to the European world for hundreds of years. We call that the Dark Ages, right? So am I okay with that, with being an empty nester? Is that what you're asking? No. I've come to acceptance of that. So for many hundreds of years, these scrolls containing things about mathematics and architecture and engineering and philosophy and all of these things were lost to the Western world. However, because there was a free exchange of ideas with other cultures, many of these things existed, were copied by people from the Arab world and held in places in the Arab world, and so made their way back to Europe after the Dark Ages. Yeah, no, I've come to acceptance of being, and it's going to happen, so I have to be okay with it. I'm definitely going to miss my kids. Definitely. I have a very close relationship with my daughters, and I'm definitely going to miss them and be concerned about them because they're going off on their own, and they're going to different schools. So they'll be a few hours apart from each other. So yeah, I mean, of course, there's always some kind of a grief period. So I'm sure I'll be sad and miss them and all of that. But there'll be a new normal, and I'm happy for them. I'm happy that they're taking this appropriate step in their life and doing what they want to do, and proud of them and all of that. So, oh, thanks. I try to be a good dad. I think I'm a better dad than I had, so that was the main goal in my life. A main goal in my life. Um, yeah, yeah. There's always with the changing like a functional change in most relationships can result in some period of grief. So Thanks. I appreciate that. Sorry. Gosh. Still not 100%. I gotta be, I have to be well for tomorrow. I have something I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm going to a party tomorrow. It's a pirate themed party. I have a whole costume. Here's my hat. I just got this because this is the only piece I didn't have. Here's my pirate hat. I'll wear this on my next live maybe. But I have a whole costume and stuff, so I have to be well so I can go have fun at this party tomorrow. I like dress up. I like kids stuff, fun stuff like that. Not that dress up is necessarily kid stuff. I realize people do cosplay, adults and all this stuff. I'm gonna try to think of some, like, maybe I should look up before I go. I'm gonna think up like the corniest possible pirate puns. How did you come? I came by car, or stuff like that, so that I can make people groan at the party. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It's been my honor and pleasure to have my daughters in my life, and it is my greatest joy. And I just I love them more than anything, and very happy and proud of them, and happy to break the cycle of that I grew up in my childhood was not so healthy. So hopefully I've provided a much better environment for them. But I knew, like, and my brother is the same with his kids as well. And I knew, when I was a kid, if I did have kids, that things were going to be different. I knew enough then, at least, to be like, yeah, no, this isn't gonna happen. So. Did you like that joke? It was terrible, wasn't it? I think I'm a fan of really bad puns, like dad jokes. The cornier, the better. If you can make somebody's eyes roll, like, oh my god, and groan, like, I don't know. I love that. That's my thing. So let me go back to the topic at hand. I really like. I'm easily distracted anyway, but when I'm not feeling well, it's even easier. Like, my brain's not working 100%. So, and thank you for the follows and everyone. I appreciate it. So let's go back to the topic at hand. I started talking about, different perspectives on things, different perspectives on reality, and how, like, I think I was talking about how, like, a lot of the early Christian ideas, Christian church, that sort of thing, they were borrowing ideas. I'm not saying the scriptures and that sort of thing, but the way that church was set up and the beliefs that are non-canonical and that sort of thing were borrowed from Greek thinking. Aristotelian ideas particularly were influential on the early church. The church fathers, most of whom were Greek, who were coming out of that world, right? Saint Nicholas, Santa Claus, I think was Turkish, actually, but a member, I think it was Turkish, Santa Claus. Saint Nicholas. Patrons, and I'm sorry if this is gonna, like, make anybody feel weird, but patron saint of children, pawn shops, and prostitutes. It's kind of a weird combination of things, but you kind of understand the story, because there was the legend is that he heard there was this family that was poor, and they had 3 daughters, and they were going to have to send them off to be prostitutes to make money for the family, and he didn't want that to happen. And there were 3 of them, and they had their stockings hung up to dry, and he threw a bag of coins through the window for each one of them that, I mean, again, it's a story, landed in the stocking. So it's where we get putting things in kids' stockings at Christmas time. It's a legend. It's where the idea came from. So, and that is also why, if you've ever seen a pawn shop, it has 3 golden balls for the 3 bags of gold for St. Nicholas. So anyway, that's the story. I love those stories. Really cool. There's lots of really cool stuff in the early church. Saint Cyprian is another. Saint Cyprian of Antioch is another interesting patron saint of sorcerers and necromancers. So yeah, there's some fascinating ones out there. But then of course, like the image of Santa Claus was transformed over time through association with actually a lot of the imagery and the stuff about like flying reindeer and stuff comes from the shamans of Scandinavia. The Sami shamans would wear red and give magic mushrooms to their reindeer, the flying reindeer theory, that sort of thing. So anyway, let me go back. I'm so losing track today. It's fine. It's okay. So it's important, like for me, it is important to understand that, again, everybody's in their own little reality tunnel. So nobody is going to see things 100% from my perspective. And oftentimes we have a lot of consternation. Why can't you see things my way? Right? Why can't you see things my way? And we have to understand where people are. So I had, somebody I was talking to, a student was talking to the other day, and she was talking about her parents and how she was making a move in her job or whatever, and she said, this is a thing and whatever, and my parents don't understand it, whatever. And I don't get it. Like, I don't get how they can think that way. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, you don't have to get how they can think that way. And you might not be able to. The thing to understand is that they are not seeing things from your perspective, and they are incapable of seeing things 100% from your perspective. They're seeing things through a lens of growing up in a different generation than you did, with different education, upbringing, media, all of these influences. Even, in their life now, even though we're living in the same age, is different than yours. And so they are experiencing things through a bunch of lenses that you don't have. And while I understand wanting approval from your parents, who doesn't want approval from their parents? But that need, that attachment to the approval of your parents can drive you crazy, can make you quite unhappy. Apologies, one more second. I did just see my dog. She's definitely acting up because I'm not paying attention to her at the moment. I just saw my dog with a screwdriver in her mouth, and unless she's going to go build some furniture, I'm going to take that away from her. Hey, what's going on with all that stuff here? Oh my goodness. She is just on a tear this morning. I just took this screwdriver away from my dog. I don't know what she was intending to do with it. Maybe she was going to take some furniture apart or something. Oh, yeah. She's like, you are not paying attention to me. I'm going to grab everything I can that I know. She's got not 1,000. This is an exaggeration. She's got a lot of toys. In fact, my daughter just bought her a new toy yesterday, which is a giraffe. It's very cute. And which she seems to like. And then she's not playing with that at all. She's just going around like destroying stuff and picking up a screwdriver, which my cat knocked off a shelf so she could get. So they're acting in cahoots, these animals. It's like a zoo at my house. I'm trying to find out if it's legal for me to own a capybara. Capybaras are just so chill. I just want a capybara, or maybe a couple capybaras would be good. So probably wouldn't get a breeding pair because they give birth to, I think, 4. I'd wind up with a lot of capybaras really quickly. Oh my gosh, I keep getting distracted. What a weird live today. Thank you all for sticking with me. I appreciate it. It's been really weird. And I have to wrap up pretty soon. It's like 9 o'clock already. I'll chat for a little while since I got like totally distracted by my dog and everything else this morning. But anyway, oh, thank you. Yeah, I've got ADHD as well. That's my normal flow. It's a little bit abnormal this morning because so one of the things they don't talk about too much that I don't see too many people talking about, but there's like real research out there, is how much like inflammation, which I have right now because I'm sick, affects the brain, affects the mind, and affects the emotions. So there's a study, not that a few years back, maybe, or maybe longer than that, maybe 10 years ago, there was a study that they took people who have diagnosed with major depressive disorder and drew their blood, and they found in their blood the same exact C-reactive proteins. C-reactive proteins are inflammatory markers that are produced by your body when you're sick, as people with the flu. People with depression have the same inflammatory markers as people who have the flu. Now think about when you've had the flu. Besides the coughing and congestion and fever, how do you feel? You have body aches. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to socialize. Okay? These are also symptoms of depression. Interesting, right? So then a couple of years after that, they did a study where they were giving people who are on SSRIs for depression, they gave them anti-inflammatory medication to go with it. And they found that it made the depression, made the SSRIs something like 50% more effective. Now, SSRIs are kind of hinky with their effectiveness. They only work for about 60% of people, and then you have to find exactly the right one and exactly the right dosage, and they're kind of hard to work. So it is interesting, and I don't see a lot of people talking about the link between inflammation and mental health. But our mind and our body is connected. Our consciousness, our spirit, mind, and body are a continuum. They're not separate things that my mind and body don't relate to each other. I mean, you can watch a scary movie and your heart rate will increase, and you can measure higher cortisol levels in your bloodstream. Of course, your mind and body are connected. So I don't know why, but I don't know why more people aren't studying the link between inflammation and things like depression. Because even if it's not, I think part of the issue is we look for single causes of things. This is a cognitive bias, but it plays out in science. It plays out in everything that we do, is that we want the one thing that's causing the thing, right? You've got depression that is caused by a lack of serotonin in your brain, period. Let's give you a pill. Here you go. You're off to the races. Maybe that's true. It's never really been proven out, right? And some people react positively to SSRIs and some people don't, right? They have lots of people who have treatment-resistant depression. What we have learned is that there can be different neural pathways that are affected. So things that affect neuroplasticity can help. Things that, inflammation can help. So maybe that it's a multi-causal thing. Maybe there are many things going on within somebody that can cause them to experience symptoms of depression. It'd be nice if we addressed those things, right? It'd be nice if we looked at people as a whole being and not just like you have one chemical off in your brain and that's it. We're going to fix that and your problems are going to go away. That's me, right? We look for really simple, cognitively simple answers to things. There's one cause of this, there's one cause of that, right? What caused the depression in the early 20th century? Oh, the stock market crashed. That wasn't the entire cause. There were lots of things. There were tons of factors that went into that. What caused World War I? Oh, it was the shooting of Archduke Ferdinand. Well, that kicked things off, but there were all kinds of things that were happening in the world, right? That kicked that off. So we like things really simple, and I get that. It's easier to comprehend them. It's easier to understand. But this is, and this relates specifically to what I'm talking about today, our little reality tunnel that we live in, because we understand the world by making cognitive models of the world. What's a model? It's a representation of something, right? I have the idea of what a dog is in my head, right? It's a four-legged little creature that stole my screwdriver and has been acting up this morning. Right? I have an idea of what a dog is in my head. Do I have the same model in my head of what a dog is as my veterinarian does? No, they have a much more detailed model of what a dog is in their head. I don't understand my dog's biology to that degree, right? That's why I take my dog to the vet. They have a different model of a dog, and so do you, because you have had different dogs in your life. You have had different experience. Some people are afraid of dogs. I love dogs. Big dogs run up to me all the time. Like I've had a couple of Great Danes just randomly, like I've been on hiking trails and people with Great Danes, and the Great Danes always, for whatever reason, Great Danes are really attracted to me. One day maybe I'll have a Great Dane. That's a big dog though. And some people are afraid of dogs. Some people are afraid of big dogs because they've had an experience or they've been raised differently, or, when I was married before, my wife at the time was raised in a culture where you don't have dogs in the house. In general, in that culture, not everybody, you can't speak for everybody in a single culture, right? You can't say all Japanese people do X or all Chinese people do Y, because there will be exceptions to everything, right? Exceptions to everything. So my point is that we don't have to do anything, but you will get through life particularly with other people, interacting with other people oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you as well. We will get through life easier and more comfortably and with less suffering than when we understand and accept that other people are living in a completely different reality tunnel from us, that everything they perceive, they're perceiving it in a different way than you are, and that there may be consensus about some things, but about other things, no, it won't happen. And we see so much divisiveness and so much like so much stuff that's like, you believe in this, so you believe in this religion, so you're a bad person, or you go to this whatever, and you're from this country, or you're from this, the color of your skin's different, or whatever. We're all completely different human beings, and that's beautiful. Diversity is beautiful, and it's important, or it wouldn't exist. If it wasn't important, it wouldn't exist. That includes people who are frustrating to us. That includes people who judge us and don't approve of us, right? I'm going to give you my love, even if you're horrible to me. I'm not going to accept, I'm going to put some boundaries on the behavior, but I'm not going to reject you as a human being. I don't have to. You don't have to put me in that space. My grandmother passed away last year. She was 106 years old. And she was a simple, I don't mean simple like simple-minded. She was a very smart woman, educated herself, got her bachelor's degree when she was 60 years old, because she wanted to become a school teacher. She'd always wanted to become a school teacher and never had the money to go to school. Worked her whole life. And my grandfather was in the military in World War II, and then worked his whole life, and decided she wanted to go to school and become a school teacher at 60 years old. So she did. And she lived to be 106, and she was active in her church. She was a reader. She went to a church where they don't have clergy. They have readers. So you volunteer, or you're chosen, and you read from the Bible each week and whatever, and you choose the songs that are going to be sung and whatever. And she was my Sunday school teacher when I was a child and stuff. And so she was, she's influential on me. And I've talked about this before, but one of the best things she ever told me, she was talking about, somebody had asked her if she believed in hell, in the concept of hell, right? And I understand that in much of the Christian world, hell is seen as this supernatural punishment for not doing what you're supposed to do. But her understanding was different. And again, she was a simple but religious woman, and she said to me, she goes, "Yeah, I believe in hell. When I am angry with somebody, when I'm cross with them, when I'm being nasty towards them or hateful or whatever, I am in hell right here, right now. But when I am being loving towards another person, when I accept them, and when I'm being happy and peaceful with them, I am in heaven, right here, right now." And nothing else mattered. It wasn't about, oh, what's going to happen? Where am I going? What am I going to be rewarded or punished when I die? I can be in heaven or hell right now, right as I am. And it was about her, right? It wasn't about other people. We cannot 100% control how other people behave towards us because they're in their own reality tunnel. They're living out their own traumas. They're living out their own experience. They are where they are on their spiritual pathway, which may not be very far. We make ourselves miserable by expecting different, by rejecting that, by being by having an aversion, by trying to push it away, or by so we can be we experience more love not by seeking it from outside of ourselves. And this is an important lesson. It's natural to want to be loved. It makes us feel safer, right? It makes us to feel safer, to feel important, to feel like we are loved from outside of ourselves, like somebody's going to take care of us, somebody's going to watch out for us. I get that. I understand that. However, we're human beings. We're all imperfect in our humanness, in our divine nature, which is who we really are back here. Drop all of this for a minute. Our divine nature, divine reality, our connection to divinity, our connection to spirit is perfect in each and every one of us. We're all of the same consciousness. We're all of the same mind. And that part of us is perfect. But we are expressing this individual nature. And as that, it is imperfect. And so is every other person around us. So you can do whatever you choose. But, my recommendation is to experiment and find out what works better for you. Does it work better for you to become more loving and to give people grace for being human, for transgressing, right? Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, right? Do we have a better life when we become more forgiving, more loving, more accepting? Or does being more forgiving, loving, and accepting make us miserable? Experiment with it. Find out what works for you. Does being hateful lead to living a better life? I don't think so. Does being distraught that other people aren't seeing things from your perspective lead to living a better life, a happier life, a life more at peace? I don't think so, but that's my reality. Okay. Again, like I'm not trying to tell you what to think, but I'm giving you some ideas maybe that to think about, to experiment with, to find out, to take in and say, take everything I say for checking. You don't have to believe a thing I say. Everything I say is bullshit until it makes sense for you. My jiu-jitsu teacher, my martial arts teacher from back in the day, here's my teaching certificate for jiu-jitsu right here, would always say, whatever I tell you is BS. Let's use the word bullshit. Sorry. Sorry for cussing. I won't cuss too much because, YouTube and Facebook don't care, but TikTok does. Everything I tell you is BS until you make it your own, right? So you can reject anything I said, or you can take it in and but take it for checking. I'm not here to take anybody's free will or supplant your belief system or anything like that. I'm offering some ideas, some things that make sense to me, and if they make sense for you, great. If they don't, great. I still love you. You don't have to believe what I believe for me to love you. And there's a great meme, and somebody said, if people can hate you for no reason, and they do, some people, then I can love you for no reason, even though I've never met you. And that's how I'm trying to live my life. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. I do my best not to hate. I do my best to be loving as much as I possibly can, particularly with other human beings, because we all need that. But also, I have found that when I become more loving, when I experience life in a more loving way, when it's generated from me, that my life is better, that I feel better, that I'm living in a state of love, which is where I'd like to be honest. It's much better. It's much better. It's more blissful, right? When I was taking a class in the Sedona method, which is a great book, by the way. I highly recommend it. It's the one book that I recommend to just about everybody. I was taking a class in Sedona method, and one of the methods, one of the ways I guess they talk about, is diving into, like literally diving into an emotion. Take an emotion that you're having, whatever that is, anger, fear, grief, sadness, whatever, and dive into it. Go into it as deeply as you possibly can. And what happens is it kind of evaporates. And what you realize is that underneath all of that is what has been referred to as an ocean of love, which is just this beautiful, blissful, calm, peaceful state. And that is what's underneath all of this. And again, you don't have to believe me. You can experience it yourself. Take it for checking. Check and see if that is your truth. Your truth and my truth may be different, and I accept that. They probably are in lots of different ways. So anyway, I'm gonna run. Thank you for sticking with me. I realize, like, this has been a weird live with me being sick and my dog being weird, and but it's Friday. It's raining out here today. It's Friday. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I don't know if I will go live again this weekend. I have sort of a busy weekend ahead of me, but maybe, who knows? I'll definitely be live on TikTok probably a couple times. But stay with me, even though this was a little weird, a little bit of a weird live today. I do love you all, and I mean that, and I hope you understand what I mean a little bit when I say that. And I just want everybody. I think if we show up in the world in a more loving space, it transforms the world that we live in. It makes the world just a better place. We have a better experience. The people around us can experience this field of love that we are giving off. Imagine you're like this electrified force field of love walking around in the world and contaminating everybody. Contaminate everybody with your love. How's that? Thanks. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have some fun tomorrow. I haven't been to a costume party in forever and ever, so it will be. I'm trying to remember the last one. It might have been like more than 20 years ago. So I should have a lot of fun. Oh, no. I had a Halloween party 2 years ago. Never mind. That's just my brain not remembering things, but I will have fun. I love dress up, all that stuff. So my love to you all. Take care. Have a great weekend if I don't see you again. And